Liam. We've got, I don't think we have a presentation or anything, but there are definitely a bunch of questions up in the Slido now that 20-day is rolled out. Hey, Fred. So we can go through those. We have our first round resolution, and it's called a roundtable for a reason. Hopefully we can all just contribute and ask questions and figure stuff out together.
Cool. Yeah, sounds great. I think one thing that might be nice for people to take a look at now is this round 279 page for signals, which is just about to resolve. There's one more score that has to be computed until we're all done. You can compare this with the previous round 278, which was last 42L round. I'll try and share my screen quickly so I can show. Can you see the signals round page?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so round 278 was the last 42L round. We see highest, let's see, 0.3113, and then goes down to 0.0449 at number 10 for round 278. And we're seeing somewhat similar stuff there. There isn't somebody at the very top. But it will be interesting to see, what do the payouts look like? What does the distribution curve look like with the first 20-day round? So yeah, go take a look at that. signals.numer.ai/round/278 or 279.
The round resolutions are on Thursday for signals, but Wednesday for classic.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And I guess this kind of gets at the first question in the Slido, which I lost my tab, but it was basically, it's still early, but what does the meta model look like now, going from 4-day to 20-day? I think it's probably too early to tell, but what's your initial take?
I forget what's kosher to share in public channels, so I'm just going to do it verbally so we don't have full charts. Basically, one thing we have been tracking for a while, and when we were assessing should we move to 20-day, was how do the 20-day correlation charts look compared to the 4-day correlation charts for like what signals users are submitting. And at the launch of Core 20, we see a noticeable increase in how well users are doing in the 20-day correlation, which makes sense. Now they're actually trying to do well in this. This is what they're getting paid on. So there has been a nice uptick there. Other thing I can comment on, and maybe I'll show charts after, I'll just have to check, is for a while signals was in the downward spiral. Everybody was just slowly burning. The upward trend started like a week before Core 20 launched, and then has been going up quite nicely since then as well. So yeah, 20-day performance increased quite a bit once Core 20 launched, and meta models going up.
Nice. It's definitely still early days. There's more data to look at, and I think
this is a sample size of like 3-4 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. Some of the like 2 rounds out are looking pretty volatile, so we'll see how that goes. But so the next question in Slido is asking what the returns even are for 20-day. Is it 20-day neutralized returns? Is it just regular returns, excess, idiosyncratic?
I believe it's neutralized residual returns. On the, what is it? It's 22 days with the first 2 days of return removed, is this period. When I looked at that question, I wasn't sure if I was missing something. Beyond it's,
I suppose it's the same as what the 4-day return was, except for a longer window, right?
Yes,
nothing else has changed.
That is correct. And then it's just neutralized residual returns is what we're doing here.
Yeah, the way I always like to think of it is sort of alpha. You start with returns, and then you neutralize out the return from specific factors, like linear factors. So that's why if you do bring your own target, it tends to be fairly correlated with the Numerai targets.
Mhm.
So on the topic of targets, Jeremy's also asking if we can keep track of 4-day, and then same question for 60-day, 120-day. Is there any thoughts there?
Okay, so there's two things. One, can we like provide this data to the users? And this is like, yes, we can do this. The other one is like, how cluttered do we want the website to be? Which is the bigger thing. Because at one point we had like 10 columns on the leaderboard. It's getting a bit of a mess. So there's things in the API to grab 4-day and 20-day correlations. I know a lot of people don't like using the API. And then we currently also don't do any 60-day evaluation for people. So I'm thinking I'll share API code so you can pull your 4-day stuff. And then if you don't like the API stuff, I don't know, if there's demand for it, we could add like a toggle to the website or something. I'm just not gonna add it every single place where we show anything.
I think just having it in the API is fair enough for people who need it.
API?
Yeah, I agree with that. I'd
Okay,
like
cool.
to see that. Yeah.
So 4-day correlations are in the API right now. I'll share some code to pull that. Let me make a note of that.
Yeah, that kind of hits on my biggest feature request too.
Right.
Just like converging. So having all of that in the API accessible, but then on the UI on the website converging on the new 20-day standard, whether that's like a clean slate or just kind of backfilling all 20-day. Right now, there are different places that have a mix of both, like the 3-month return, I think is a mix.
Yeah.
The leaderboard is only core 20.
Yes.
And on your model page, it's only core 20. So I don't know if the consensus would be to do a clean slate, only showing things from round 279 on, or backfilling, but one of those two I think would be helpful.
For this 3-month return we see at the top.
The 3-month return on the top, but also if you sort the leaderboard.
Sure. Okay, cool.
And if you go into a profile page, I think it shows your 4-day scores up until 279, but that's not very clear, I think, for new users.
Okay,
If
cool.
there was some demarcation there that signified when 4-day stopped and 20-day kicked off visually.
Yeah, exactly.
Will do. Thanks for the feedback.
Hey, just speaking of the API for a minute while we're on it, would that then enable the early notebooks like what we have with Classic?
Early notebooks. So with Classic, my understanding is why there's early notebooks is there's like, we do this like core scoring, let's say, and then there's a bunch of other stuff that takes a really long time, like MMC or FNC or other things later downstream. Signals is quite fast right now. Once like the scores are actually computed. So scoring takes like 15 minutes. I think the rest of the pipeline is like another 5 or 10 minutes. But yeah, you could pull from the API before the leaderboard is necessarily updated.
So early scores is a bug, not a feature.
Possibly, yeah. But the users like it.
So you're saying we can do that right now with signals if we wanted, or we can't?
If you pulled the right field, you should be able to get the scores slightly before the leaderboard updates.
I think what he's trying to say is that there's not much of a lag between the correlation and the MMC computation. So early scores would be pointless for signals.
Yeah.
Maybe once you have 10x the users, you might want to release early scores.
Alternatively, could you start the pipelines at the same time instead of a couple-hour delay, which would then enable like an early peak on both?
Early what? Enable a what?
An early peak on both.
Early peak on both. Oh, gotcha. So normally signals should be running before Classic does, and it should even complete before like Classic is even halfway through. I delayed it today because it's the first round resolution. We had this call. Wanted to make sure it went smoothly. Yeah, it should be fine. There should be no issues. Don't worry.
No, I'm just saying, like in general, the pipeline mechanism starts Classic around 8:50 US Eastern time, and Signals is somewhere around 11. Could you?
Oh, I got you. This makes sense. Yeah, we could do that. I'll make a note. I'm not making promises on that, but yeah, we could move it even earlier. The original thinking was we wanted like the leaderboards to update on both at the same time. So we just set the pipeline like this, but we could do it more intelligently than like aligning pipeline completions. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I think that would be cool too, because people tend to peek at the classic before anyway, so they're not totally aligned already, but
Yeah,
I see the thought process. All right, we can head back to the Slido and keep going through those. The next question is good to know. I've wondered the same. Any major changes like the switching to the 20-day targets coming in the near future that we should be preparing for? Can we expect kind of like a stasis here?
we can expect a stasis. There's not going to be any huge change to how you're paid or how you're scored in the near future. Near future, let's say about like 3-ish months, maybe 4, maybe even 5.
Okay.
What you can expect is maybe some new data that will give you some nice new diagnostics for signals. Is one thing we're thinking of. Another is the signals ticker map that we give out every week. I'm going to be adding some data to it, such as like country, sector, maybe a few other things that might make certain things easier for you guys, because we have that data. Some of it is
That would be nice.
Yeah, cool.
That would be nice.
That will be coming in within like, I want to say like this Saturday, so I'm going to double my estimate. So it'll be next round open. Will be when this stuff is included.
That would be great. Also, I think there are only like 5,000 tickers in that ticker map, but if you go back to 2006, the whole universe is like 13,000. Will you be able to do all of those too?
Yeah, so there's a question about like doing historical things as well,
Right.
because right now the ticker map is just live, changes every week. There's no reason to like not do this. It's just that will take a bit longer because it's not as easy as just like copying over what we have in the existing pipeline. But yeah, doing some sort of like historical and like hopefully a point in time thing is on the list for sure. And that gets more important once we do start adding like additional data rather than just live ticker conversions.
Okay, cool. So in a similar vein of things changing or not, Suraj asked if signals is going to be neutralized against the 1,000 new features. I think this has been answered before that it won't be, and it'll kind of stay at the 310 or whatever we are being neutralized to.
Yep, it'll stay at 310.
Okay. Cool. How about releasing new targets like the 60-day targets
or any of the other 18 targets?
Yeah,
it's being discussed right now. It's like we would like to, and we just need to check things along the lines of obfuscation. More targets we give out, the easier deobfuscation becomes. Yeah, no, we'd like to. We'll get back to you on this. Is the answer.
Cool. Yeah, that's something JRB and I have spoken about a lot in our clubhouses, just using a lot of targets. You can kind of spin up your own, but having more is always better, I think. Here's an interesting question. Why do you think models do better on 20 days than in 4 days?
Two things, and I'm sure people will disagree with me about this, but one is just like kind of from the perspective of like noise. So if you're saying, oh, this stock should go up based on whatever historical factors I'm looking at and prior weeks and this sort of thing. So you have some set of data. You have the new set of data about the stock at the current moment. If you're just predicting like 3 hours in advance, let's say, like any number of random things can happen to influence the stock price, and that effect diminishes the longer you go. So 1 week it's still present, 4 weeks it's still present, but it's less so. So one thing, a little bit of price noise minimization. Other thing is over the span of a longer time horizon, there's more time for the stock to change price even more. Like, I don't know, what's the word? If a stock is going up at a linear rate, right? After 4 weeks, it will have gone up more than just after 1 week. And so there's more amplitude to what you're predicting.
Then why 20 days and why not 60 or 100?
That's a good
Why
question.
not all of them?
Maybe it should just be 5 years and we only pay you guys every half century or something.
JRB, no more comments from you, dude.
Yeah. 60 days interesting in that there's like certain things it aligns to with like holding periods and sort of thing for how we actually trade. I don't know. 20 days we'll stick with for now, but and hopefully people do better.
Isn't there a component of that too that aligns with hedge funds? I mean, you look at your performance on a monthly basis, and
Yeah.
you're quite often receiving fees based on monthly performance and stuff. I mean, I think there's something to be said for aligning targets with your functions internally.
Sure. Yeah.
It also happens to coincide with options expirations, which are typically monthly. Well, there's weeks now too, which would have motivated the 4 days. But
also internally, like we're better able to create these 20-day models and 4-day models. We hope it's the same for users as well. I also think there's more and more research on this time horizon than there is on 1 week, but I could be mistaken about that.
Yeah, I don't have a great like philosophical answer because it can be a philosophical question, but empirically I found that I find more signal in 20 days than in 4 days. I get the argument of why that probably shouldn't be the case, but I've definitely seen that it is.
Cool.
Yeah. The next question here is, can we change the features which neutralize the prediction in the future?
Oh, so the neutralizer is going to be different than the current 310. Is this what it's asking?
I'm not totally sure if it's asking if we can pick the features that we're neutralized to, or if you are going to change them in the future, which we've already kind of answered.
Okay.
Not changing the feature, and then for you to neutralize yourself, it'd be useful to have like pre-neutralized scores or us to give the features and this sort of thing, which kind of goes into the following question: any plans to make pre-neutralized scores available to users, not just on validation, but also live? To make them available and not to score on is possible. A main question here again is obfuscation stuff. We think it might be doable. Not planning to pay on unneutralized stuff anytime soon though. Can we change the previous question? I'm not exactly sure what it's asking.
Can we just stop on this point for a second? Because I think this is like the critical point to the contest. Is there a bias injected into our scores from the neutralization process? And the only way for us to assess that would be to have a clean view of unneutralized and neutralized scores presented. You don't have to score us on unneutralized.
Yeah.
Just let us know so we can then try to play the slice into our predictions if there is a bias present. From my experimentation on the process from the toy notebook, when I expanded all the vectors out and generated different correlations to those features, was we are beholden to how those features actually do to the targets rather than how our underlying predictions are. And I started with the baseline of, let me put in the exact same prediction as the targets. And then when you alter the features that were neutralized against, the scores vary widely. Sorry. It's huge. There's no two ways around it. So if we're given that information, that will just help us then compensate. However, we're going to do it on our end.
Cool. It's on the priority list to make pre-neutralized scores available.
It should be up there with going to the bathroom in the morning. Like number one priority is that feature. Thanks.
Cool. Yeah, we've been talking about that. I'll bring it up even more.
Yeah, that's up there on my request list too. Do you have, I think we had talked about it a while ago if it was in the API, and I think you did put it in there. I haven't seen anyone actually do it to get pre-neutralized scores. It sounds like diagnostics is being worked on separately too. Is that?
That should not be in the API.
Then it's not. Okay, I'm mistaken. Okay.
As we're getting the scores, actually the targets on a weekly basis, the live errors as they resolve, isn't it possible to calculate the neutralized and unneutralized scores ourselves? Because we have the actual targets and we get them as soon as they resolve. So I don't know if we have to wait for Liam to get it done. We can just calculate it ourselves, right?
Yeah, and I have been on my end. But again, it would be nice for everyone to be able to see that columns next to each other.
Got it.
Cool. Yeah, no timeline, but it'll probably get added soon. Any initial thoughts on Core 20? It sounds like JRAI likes it. Is that correct? Being able to find more signal on this new horizon.
Yeah, that's what I found. So the last feature request I have is looking at daily scores so we can learn. So there's all this talk on Classic about how volatile daily scores are, and we really don't have any data at all on the 20-day daily scores. So it could be even more volatile from day 1 to day 20. Are you able to backfill that so we can look at how the previous rounds have looked?
Yes. And it already has been backfilled. I'm not sure if it's available to users yet or not.
Okay. In the UI, it's not, because if we look at a previous round, we see the 4-day, maybe in the API, but I haven't.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it is available in the API, but I'll make that available soon. That's a good point. Yeah, to see volatility over time.
Yeah, just more information in general, similar to the pre-neutralized, neutralized, and then even looking at like the daily scores of pre-neutralized, neutralized, and how those change. There's a lot of information that can be learned from that.
So I should know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask anyway. The website diagnostics, those are neutralized diagnostics, right? Okay, thanks.
Yep. Yeah. Other things from our end that we're thinking about with regards to signals is creating a few more like official example models, but maybe create on things other than Y-Finance, kind of similar to how Siraj or others have created like these example scripts using premium data sources like AlphaVantage, Quandl, IEX. We're gonna do this, but we're just gonna like maintain it ourselves, have a model that like submits this dedicated every week, and have the code available for people to download. So it's easy to see, oh, what is the live performance? If I pay $50 a month, maybe I'll get something similar, this sort of thing. Yeah.
That would be cool. Like the example, the advanced example model now in Classic, just having more of those for signals. There are a few gotchas where like the targets are overlapping now. If we make longer features, there's just more to sort of purge and embargo that people should be aware of.
Yeah, the idea behind this is kind of like, I remember there's certain models in Classic a while ago where you said like, oh, they're like entirely open source. But then I was like, are they really? Can you really download the code? This time they're actually going to be open source. Yeah.
Including the random seeds.
Including the random seeds, including the hardware specs, everything. Don't worry.
Right. Any timelines on this? Liam?
For these new example models.
Mhm.
I'm not going to say anything more than like within the coming quarter. So like within 3 months,
That's
most
fair.
likely sooner than that.
Just a quick question. How does Mike P have any MMC if everything he knows is known to Numerai and not neutralized against?
Because the MMC is relative to the other people on the leaderboard, not relative to their signals.
We've been like discussing internally how like his like example models that he gives out are so much better than these models created on like the new data on Classic. Just these example scripts are doing much better than like anybody else who's using old data. So we really want like adoption to go up. We're gonna be sharing some stuff about this. But yeah, this is where some of the MMC comes from. Yeah.
Okay, that was all the questions we had in the Slido pre-prepared. I got all my feature requests out there on my list of converging on some sort of standard across the whole site. Like it should all be 20-day. Right now it's still sort of overlapped and confusing. The daily scores would be great. And pre- and post neutralized. That's my kind of list.
Cool. I think we'll make them all happen. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming. We'll put this on YouTube not too long. Any final questions before we go?
Nope. Thanks for your time.
Awesome.